Deep topic we're covering this morning. Father's Day is this weekend, and the role of the father has been changing over the years, of course, along with society. And joining me to talk about it is author Michael Taylor. Author of this is just one of your books, Stop Blaming Men for All the Problems. And we talked about this last time you were here. Welcome back.
Glad to be here, Owen.
Happy early Father's Day.
Absolutely.
We talk about the changing role of fathers. I think back to the old days. I don't know, I call them just the good old days where it was, dads worked and moms cared for the children. And it was like these hard established roles. And I feel like today there is so much more gray area for dads. Do you agree with that? And if so, how have we changed?
Well, again, if you think about it from a male perspective, we were taught that we were supposed to be the providers, right?
Right.
So what do? We go out, we work 80 hours a week, try to provide for the family, buy them stuff. Well, what's changing is I think men are now more connected. They're wanting more connection. So instead of just buying stuff, what we're trying to do is connect with our kids. How do we do that? Number one, I think what our kids need most is to simply know that we love them.
Yeah.
Okay? And also to not only know that we love them, but also know that we respect them, we honor them, give them the opportunity to be who they are. We're proud of them. Right. And so being able to communicate those things to our kids is really difficult for men, because we were conditioned to believe that men aren't supposed to be emotional.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is for men now, it's okay to be emotional. Yeah. And that's how you connect with your children.
It's interesting. So yeah, it's like for decades we thought the connection was made through the buying of the stuff. Or the work. We expect a child to equate us going out and hustling all day with love. And that's really not it. We have to go so much deeper than that.
But see, here's the thing. We were taught that women were the nurturers. Men can be just as nurturing as women. It's just that we've been conditioned not to be.
Yeah.
And so what this new conversation with men is about is letting men know it's okay to be nurturing. It's okay to be vulnerable. We don't always have to have all the answers. We don't have to always get it right. But just being who we are and expressing ourselves openly to our kids, that's what creates that connection that our children long for.
Is that the opening, just to start breaking down those walls? Because I think for some of us with a really hard shell, it may be difficult to take that first layer
It's
off.
Extremely difficult because of the male conditioning of our society.
Right.
But this conversation is breaking those walls down. And again, there's a lot of focus right now, you hear, on mental health, things like that. So men are beginning to wake up, I believe. Men are beginning to ask themselves deeper questions. And we're tired of these superficial relationships. We want to connect more. And what does that mean? We want to be able to get in touch with how we feel and express that as men, which is kind of new.
Yeah, and a lot of that you address in the book, don't you?
Absolutely. And again, it's really about changing what I call the paradigm. And what is a paradigm? A paradigm is a rigid way of believing, thinking, and behaving. So if we can change what we believe, it changes how we think, it changes how we act. And when it comes to masculinity, when we change what it means to be a man, we can change how we act as men.
You talk about the 30, 30, 30, 10 rule. We add all that up, it equals 100, 30, 30, 30, and 10. What is that rule? And explaining really why fatherhood has nothing to do with ethnicity, maybe culture, or the color of our skin for sure.
Well, there's a misconception and stereotype that black men are deadbeat dads. And there's a guy in Australia who is a leading authority on fatherhood, and he came up with this rule. And he says, if you put 100 men in a room, regardless of religion, regardless of race, regardless of socioeconomic status, if you put 100 men in a room, 30 of them would have no relationship with their father whatsoever. 30 of them would have what he calls an estranged relationship with their father, meaning the father is in their life, but don't get along really well. 30 of them would have what he calls a holiday relationship, meaning the father's in their life, but really only shows emotions during the holidays. And of those 100 men, only 10% of them would have what he calls an emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually healthy relationship with their fathers.
Wow.
So it's not about ethnicity.
Right.
It's about manhood and masculinity. So when we take race out of the picture, any man can become a great father, but he has to understand that it's not genetic. Right. It's learned behavior. Therefore, even if we didn't have a great relationship with our father, we can still become great fathers.
Interesting. But then, so we take it to the next step, which is for those of us that have sons. Can we start turning them into great fathers earlier than we learned, right? Like from the time that they're little babies, we can start showing them the kind of love that puts them in that 10 and not one of the 30s. How do we do that?
And how does it start? First of all, we stop saying big boys don't cry. We stop saying, don't be a sissy, don't be a punk. We allow our young men to connect with who they are emotionally. That's the key. And so starting young and letting them see us as men, express vulnerability and sensitivity. That's how you set the stage for them to be great fathers later.
I feel like that's a fine line, right? Because, and maybe it is generational, but I still feel like I have to uphold some tough guy thing with my kids. Like we have to maintain some kind of strength. And how do we do the strength with the emotional? It's such a delicate balance.
It's really difficult because here's the thing. When we think of strength from a male perspective, we think stoic, we think tough, we think strong, right? But we need to let that go and understand that it's okay to put the guards down. To be vulnerable is strength. Okay? And so that's what we have to incorporate as men, to know that it's okay to be nurturing, to be sensitive, all those things to our young men.
Yeah. I love this conversation. I know we could go on. Before we go, though, you brought this other book in because this was a gesture from your daughter, and I know you wanted to tell us about it. What's the story behind this book?
My baby girl, Katrina, who's 37 years old, she lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So she sends me this personalized book for Father's Day, and it says, "I love you, Dad." And on the back it says, "Dad, you're my hero."
My goodness.
And as a father, very few things warm my heart to know that my kids know that I love them and that I've actually been a great father. So.
And that love is returned
Absolutely.
in a beautiful way.
Absolutely.
Well, shout out to your daughter. Obviously, you've been a great dad
My
yourself,
baby girl, Katrina, just love her to death.
Happy early Father's Day, Michael.
Thank you, Owen.
It's always good to see you, my friend. And if you guys want to continue this conversation, you can always check out Michael Taylor's book, just one of them, Sade, sorry, watch out there. Stop Blaming Men for All the Problems. And we'll have Michael back again. Have a great weekend for Father's Day.